All right, well, we had our pal, the hardest working man in the blogger business, Mike Sando, on. You can check it out on our podcast at 710sports.com, talking all things NFC West, talking Seahawks specifically. We talked about free agents a little bit. In fact, you brought up your Charles Woodson, the seemingly obsessive fascination that some people have with Charles Woodson. And I know one of the things I asked about looking at the Seahawks defense was about Red Bryant, and of all the things that we're looking at in terms of what Seattle could and couldn't do last year. We talk about the pass rush not being there and needing to add to that. But, it struck me that Stando was always great at doing these numbers, that the Seahawks the second half of the year were a completely different team against teams, even running the football against them. We saw the average go up as games went on. We saw Michael Turner run wild on him. And really, I thought a lot of it had to do with the foot injury suffered by Red Bryant. When they had him healthy, which was the first 5 or 6 games of the year, it was during that time they had their 8-sack half against the Packers and everything. Their defense really did look like a number one defense. Without him, a lot of these other things propped up. Now, it doesn't change the fact that Chris Clemens is hurt, and they do need to amp up their pass rush a little bit. But, boy, and I don't know if he can be healthy. I would hope so. But if Red Bryant get back to being healthy, I think this defense is actually more like the one we saw at the start of the year than the one we saw at the end of the year.
Well, he's crucial to what they do against the run. There's no debate about that. He's not a pass rusher. He doesn't have an impact in terms of piling up sacks. He occupies blockers. He occupies offensive linemen, and he's very stout against the run. So his limited mobility left and right, that plantar fasciitis thing, is something that a lot of guys deal with. And we all talk about, him being in there at 330, 340,
Jeez,
whatever he's
hurt,
playing.
man.
It's got to be brutal. So it takes away what he does best.
Right.
And that's stopping the run, being just a guy who clogs it up. And he wasn't that guy, frankly. I mean, didn't you think
he was like two different players last year?
Well, yeah, and it was hard to tell because we still have never gotten clarification as to when he suffered the injury. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard to tell. I guess you could just look at the running stats and say, well, here's where they started going up, and maybe that's where he got hurt. I don't know.
Feels like the 49er game is where it happened.
Maybe it was. But him being limited, he was gutting it out. He was putting himself out there. But him being limited, coupled with Clemens getting hurt, and then the inexperience of Bruce Irvin, that finally came to hurt him in that game against the Atlanta Falcons. So you figure a healthy Red Bryant is going to count for a lot. But they still need to address, what do they do about Clemens? What do they do to, if he's not ready, who do you put in there?
No doubt. But I think, knowing if he's healthy or not, because as Sando kind of pointed out, for some reason for Red it was tough to tackle, it was tough to have any lateral movement whatsoever, and you wouldn't think he needed a lot, but 2 years ago when he went down, the defense was a completely different animal without him. Last year, I think because of the fact that they've upgraded in the past couple of years, they still survived. They still did okay on defense, but boy, he is really an important element. So as much as it's important to bring in guys, that foot of Red's feeling better may be the most important key to the Seahawks playing better defense next year.